Well, let's talk about CRMs since you brought that up. Why do you suspect CRMs aren't being used to the fullest extent? Is it the complexity of them? Is it the human buy-in element or lack thereof?
So I would say number one, and this is where a lot of things come down to, it's the leadership.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm going through this with my company now, just being fully transparent with you guys. I was talking to my wife about this. Like, we have to stop working with dealerships from the bottom up and start working from the top down. Because, we spend a lot of time teaching internet people, sales people, all these tools and how to use this CRM. But the people that need to embrace it and put it in the most is the leadership at the store. So once they really understand how powerful that tool is and how to hold their team accountable and set that system up to where they're using it, the sales team's using it, even service can be using it. Once that gets implemented at the top, then that's when that CRM takes off. But if what I see a lot of times is you'll have leaders and sales managers at the dealership, they kind of like let the salespeople do the follow-up stuff in the CRM, and then they just stay put. And they're like, I don't really do that stuff. But what's funny about this, because I know you both have probably been in the business for a while, if you go back, like I think 20 years from now, the sales managers were actually the biggest controllers of the follow-up, because you guys remember those old desk logs, the old paper log, and you had to put the customer's name in there, salesperson name, and you had to put in, they did a demo, write up. I remember the managers used to have that, and they had to like, hey, Durran, who's that customer you were just with? Here's all the information. But then when the CRMs came in, it's kind of like we flipped it, and we made it to where we want the salespeople doing more, BDC doing more, but the manager is the biggest glue to that CRM.
Durran, it's kind of funny you say that, because your stories are very familiar to mine. I swear to you not, the last podcast we had, I was talking to the guy. I just started working with a dealership in California. They have Dealer Socket, and they haven't touched it since they started in 2014. Same exact stories. It's absolutely crazy. As far as CRM usage, it just seems like you would think that if you were, self type, motivated, kind of like, a salesperson, since that's kind of like what we're supposed to do is prospect, you would want to use it.
Absolutely. And listen to this. There's a stat that I heard this morning and I guess you can fact check it. This came from cars.com. So it was on a Clubhouse call, and they did a huge survey, and it said that it says dealership loyalty is 35% on the consumer side. So that to me, that's almost the exact equation of the CRM, because if you're doing what you're supposed to do in that CRM and it's set up the right way, then your retention you'll be on that 70% side where you're getting a much more retention. But like to your example, what you just said, that would explain it, because if you're not using that tool and it's not set up to keep that cycle going with sales and service, then that would explain why the customer loyalty for dealerships is so small, because the lack of communication. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, you're 100% right. So what do you think the key elements of a CRM that they're missing out? What are they missing out on? What features are being underserviced? Sorry.
So what I teach is to make sure we're prioritizing our flow and how we work the CRM. So what I teach is I advise, make sure you're using the CRM to work for you. You don't work for the CRM. And so what I mean by that is you'll see a lot of sales teams where they're so focused on completing tasks, but they're not focused on engaging with the right people. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of just going in and you'll see them dial. That's all they're focused on, but they're not prioritizing. So what I teach is, to make sure you start your day with your new opportunities. First, you need to have your plan, but start with your new opportunities. Then your unanswered communication. So you got unresponded emails and texts. This sounds simple, but I could pull up a lot of CRMs right now, and there's some that still have 90 people with unanswered communications because they're not dialing in to engage with the right people. But then after you're taking care of those unanswered replies, you're making sure your appointments are good for the day. You're sending videos to those customers. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you. This could be managers. And then the next step should be spending time with your most engaged shoppers. Those people from the last week or two that have been talking with you, that's who you want to get with, and then do the rest of that follow-up. But what happens, Reed, is that most people will come in and they'll just start pounding tasks. In most CRMs, the first task they ask you to do will be like happy birthday calls. You know, there'll be sold follow-up calls.
Yeah,
Right.
That is important. You know,
Yeah.
I love both of you. Happy birthday. But I'm not going to call you first or send you a video first until I take care of my engaged shoppers who are actually needing help and they want to get a vehicle.